What's going on, everyone? I wanted to talk about Predator Badlands today. I finally went to go watch it, and so I figured let's make a video, a little review on it. The movie's directed by Dan Trachtenberg. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but it's the same director from Prey, and I love Prey. It's one of my favorite Predator films. I'm here to report that I think Predator Badlands might just have become my second favorite Predator film. I liked it that much, so I might place it actually my top three. I'm a huge Predator fan. I've been following Fox and the franchise for a very long time. I've been watching the Alien films and the Predator films since I was a kid. So this was big. This was one of the most anticipated films of the year for me. So the synopsis reads, a young Predator outcast from his clan finds an unlikely ally on his journey in search of the ultimate adversary. And yeah, that's basically what the film is about. It's a very simple story, redemption or proving yourself to the clan. The main character is a predator by the name, or Yautja by the name of Dek. And so Dek and his brother are fighting at the very beginning of the film. I'm not going to go into spoilers here. I'm just going to be very broad. It's mostly about Dek proving himself to the clan and his father. Dek is sent to a unforgivable planet, a planet that is killing every species is killing each other. You know, it's like survival of the fittest. And his mission is to bring back something called the Kalisk, which is a beast, a monster, a behemoth, if you will, that even his own father is scared of. And so it would be a huge honor if he would bring that back to his clan, proving himself and earning his cloak, because apparently for that Yautja tribe, they have to earn that item, the cloak, which is like the invis for Halo, or you know what I'm talking about. The movie starts very intense, and you almost immediately gravitate towards the character because, if you have a troubled family, maybe you could relate, stuff like that, or you just care about the character at the very beginning because of the stuff that's happening to him. When he's being sent to the planet, he's like unconscious. He's like crashing into it. His ship is basically obliterated, and now he's on his own right there on this planet. So the planet that he crashes in is called Genna, and it's known as the Death Planet. Everything is trying to kill each other, and the only ones that survive are like the top apex predators of their kind, animals and plants. Yeah, you could just tell this planet is just a hazard. But he's sent there on this mission, right, to collect the Calyx, the head of the Calyx, and bring it back to his clan. The budget of this film is $105 million, so it puts it up there as the most expensive Predator film, I believe, of all time. Dek is essentially the weakest part of the clan. He's known as the runt, the one that they were supposed to kill, but somehow still alive, right? And the father wants the brother to kill Dek. Well, that's not really a spoiler, so I'm going to go ahead and say it because otherwise we wouldn't have a movie, right? But at the very beginning, the brother doesn't do so. And so there's consequences because of that. And the father ends up doing something that Dek gets hurt over, becomes enraged, the stuff that happened in front of him as he is being like transported to Genna. I forgot to mention too that the movie starts in Yautja Prime, which is pretty cool. We get to see the planet, and basically everything's dead there, and how the Yautja are like the apex predator of that planet, and they go to other planets to earn equipment. And in this case, it's to earn the cloak and respect of the clan. So Dek is on Genna, and he is setting everything up, the classic predator tools that we've seen in the films. And then there's, of course, like the new stuff, like there's the sword, and then the bow, energy bow, and of course like the staff that we have always seen in from Predator 2 and after that as well. But this planet is extremely dangerous. So the flora is trying to kill him, the fauna is trying to kill him, everything. The cinematography is really awesome. CGI was top notch. I thought I was gonna hate Dek because the way he's built, but it makes sense now that they explain that he is the outcast of the family, of the clan. So he's a lot smaller than any of the other predators. I found it relatable in a sense, right? You could find that it's like kind of like a Spider-Man story, right? Where like anybody could be Spider-Man, well, anybody could be like the outcast, right? That's That's what they were trying to aim for here. I did see that there were some people complaining about how this film was a little too family friendly in the sense of like the kills and stuff that was going on. At the very beginning, even though this film is not rated R, and I understand why it's not rated R, there's really not like blood or anything. I mean, there's synthetic blood. Outside of that, there's really no, humans dying or anything like that. But the kills in here are satisfying. So at the very beginning, we get to see a decapitation. It's amazing. I was like, holy crap! They showed something like that in a PG-13 film. All right, sounds good, but it's one of those where I guess since it's not a human dying, and it's a whatever species dying that doesn't exist. I guess it's considered PG-13, but I mean, regardless, those kills were brutal. By the end of this film, are you left satisfied? I think so. I personally enjoyed the heck out of this film. Once he's in that environment, he starts learning about how to use his environment, the dangers that are there, and how to create weapons from that planet. And I thought that was a really cool concept, really similar to first Predator film with Arnold having to put mud on his face and make weapons out of the trees, make a bow and stuff like that. So it's kind of very similar here in that aspect. There is a couple of companions, and I know there's some people that didn't like that, but the way Deck looks at the companions is like they're tools. They're gonna help him accomplish his mission. Until like later on, by the end of the film, it's more like, oh, okay, he's trying to build his own clan. It makes sense now why he's doing so, because he's not that traditional Yautja that are pretty tall, pretty big. He's always looked at as a disappointment because of his physical features. So eventually on this planet, he finds a synthetic that has her feelings like turned up or dialed up because Wailing Yutani wanted it that way. They wanted two of the synthetics. I believe they're called Thea and Tessa. And I think he finds Thea. Deck finds Thea, and that's the character that we see in the trailers, that she's like missing half of her body. I thought the actress did a great job portraying Tessa and Thea, but he like picks her up and is dropping her down. There's some humor in here and stuff like, whoa, where Thea's like, was that a joke? Like from a Yautja, like that's unheard of. But he's not really like laughing or anything. He's like he's got that serious demeanor, which I appreciated that they kept him like that. I didn't want him to like start giggling or something. Like this turned into like a full Disney film or something like that. To be more relatable. I wanted the kills to be brutal. They were. I wanted it to be a simple story, and that's what it is. I wanted it to have a satisfying conclusion. Was it satisfying for me? I think so. They even teased like a sequel for it if, the movie does well, which I don't think it's going to, because it's a Predator film and the main audience, the general audience is probably not going to support it as much as like the fans of these films. So that's sad. We might not see a sequel because of that, but hopefully at least it makes its money back. So by like the end of the film, he ends up having to create weapons from his environment, like I said before, because he ran out of weapons and because of Wailing Yutani being there on the planet and then finding his ship before he can. And he ends up finding it later, but sees that it's been already scavenged. And along the way, the reason why he goes to, I guess, rescue people, or not people, I guess, rescue the synthetic, which is known as Thea. Along the journey, he learns about the wolf, the wolf from Earth, how they are the alpha and how the alpha takes care of the pack. I found it pretty cool that Thea was explaining that to him. Deck was like, okay, I'm going to become the alpha and I'm going to be known as the one that kills the most, and stuff like that. Like he still has that mentality of the Yautja being the top apex predator. But it's much more than that. He starts realizing that he needs to take care of the clan in order to survive not only this planet, also overall. I think this story, this premise was solid. It's not what I was expecting, like the story to be, but hey, I wasn't mad at it either. Since he's the one that's underestimated all the time, it kind of makes sense for the story to be what it is and why he decided to make these drastic decisions, instead of going the way of the Yautja, he's creating his own clan. What did I love about this film? I think the fauna, the flora on the planet was really cool on Genna. I think the companions, it wasn't too bad. That small creature that is following him around and mimicking his movements. It's almost like a big brother, little brother type of thing where the little brother is copying the big brother and what he does. So they try to play around, have a little bit of humor in that sense. I think all of the actors did a great job. Things that I didn't like about the film was probably like the synthetics. It was just one person's face over and over and over again. You see that in the trailer, so that's not a spoiler. That's something that I just thought that was the weakest part. And then also like the ending in terms of it could have been super satisfying, but it wasn't that for me. The fight with like the mech and the fight with the Callus was pretty freaking cool. I absolutely love that he used his environment, like the stuff that he learned throughout the journey. He was starting to like go back to the spots where he was finding all this flora that was dangerous. You know, there was this plant that has these spikes. You know, if you get too close to it, it'll explode and then send these spikes that will paralyze you. There was the grass that had grass turned into like some sort of glass, sharp glass. Certain animals were able to interact with the grass. There's a bison in here. I think like a rhino bison that was all CGI, but he looked freaking sick. And I want to know more about those creatures. You know, it adds more lore. The design of the Yautja, this specific tribe or clan, looked freaking sick, man. The father in particular, he had these white dreadlocks, and then you could tell like he has earned all the stuff that he has because of his status, his rank, and you know the way he was dressed compared to the other Yautja. But I think if you were waiting for a film where they use Yautja Prime and they use a predator trying to prove himself, right? And I think a lot of people don't like the fact that he's the runt, right? And I understand why they went that route, but hopefully we could get like a Predator film where it's just straight up rated R and it's a Yautja just doing its thing. Something like the first Predator film, but the POV of that Yautja. We kind of saw that on Prey a little bit with the animals and stuff like that, but I think it would be really cool if we could see it like in this era and see what a Predator does. So overall thoughts, I thought the film was pretty solid. I don't think it's perfect. I wish they would have gone a different direction. The director that made this film, I respect that director because of the Prey film. And so if he chose to do this, hope that he gets creative freedom in the future to create another one of these films. But this time around, the Yautja is not the runt anymore, right? The Yautja is straight up that rated R film. It is a feel-good ending. And a lot of people are not going to like that. They're not looking for that in their Predator films. But like I said, I think this is excusable because of the fact that he's the outcast. I can't think of any plot holes. I don't think there was any. I think everything was, they tied it up with a bow. There was a resolution for everything. I do recommend you go watch this film. If you can watch it in IMAX, that'd be even better because of the surround sound system. The soundtrack, it was beautiful. I mean, we're talking about Viking throat singing here. When there's action scenes going on at the very beginning, that scene was just intense. What follows after, like this whole film, you're just hooked and you're just in for the ride. As soon as he lands on that planet, like I said, it could have been better, but with what they had, I think it's a pretty solid film. That's going to do it for this review. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, please make sure you like, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll talk to you in the next one.
That doesn't make sense.